Welcome to the, what are we, September 25th Finance Committee meeting. Mrs. Clerk, may I have a roll call, please? Into the microphone.
Diane.
Present, we have David Hurd, Joan Fonts, Marilyn Jordan, Marilyn Donahue, Larry McDonald, Bonnie Catulli, and Dominic Camerano, and absent is Tom Worthen.
Thank you. Any citizens that would like to address the Finance Committee? Step up to the mic and tell us your name and address us.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Gomes. I was at home yesterday watching TV with a couple of friends, and we had some interest talking about the meeting last night. One of the interests was about the harbor master and creating an extra job. The concern that we spoke among ourselves was this is creating a job seasonal. It would be busy. But when it's not seasonal, so what do we take that responsibility of paying somebody unemployment for a harbor assistant? We have the police that have 2 jet skis. You know, is all our focus going to be on the water? And I think the harbor master does a great job. That's not what I'm stating. But also at the same time, we've had people that's worked down to the beach. Part of the program is to get relief off their taxes. We've taken that away from them, and then we're creating a job. I mean, where does it come in that the town's people benefit? And I was in front of the selectmen a year ago. I expressed my concern as far as putting a lifeguard onto the beach. There are thousands of people just in one day there. Is it all about money, or can we worry, does it take one accident to happen, somebody drowning? Yeah, people should watch their children when they go into the water, but sometimes it's not even children. I mean, we're saying we want people to come into the town, but then only if we benefit in money. How about making people safe in the beach? We have no lifeguard. This could create jobs for the kids. Waterways hires the kids, and they don't pay into taxes. You know, they don't collect unemployment at the end of their year. I mean, why not benefit either elderly or the young people that take a course at the Y for lifeguard? You know, our interest, it can't be all about making Wareham bigger. Has to be for the people that live here, and for our elderly and the children. I mean, we have 2 jet skis. Police, how many people are we going to put out there? We have municipal maintenance that has 8 employees. Guy, I don't know if he has 8 to 14 employees. I mean, we need 4 or 5 people to help the harbor master. I don't know. I'm not the professional, but that was one of our talks yesterday. I have another concern with the sewer, and I'll be done.
Let me address your first one. First off, as much, and I appreciate your comments, but this is really a question you need to direct at the selectmen and the town administrator. This is not for the Finance Committee to answer the question. As much as we'd like to, believe me, we would like to. I think this is really something because there are nuances to the jobs that you're talking about that the town administrator and as well as the Board of Selectmen would understand better. So I apologize for not going around the table and getting comments on it, but it really is something that we shouldn't be weighing in on at this point.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just didn't know where I should go.
I understand, but and I appreciate you coming to us because now they know that you should come to them, and I think the selectmen will be able to address it better on that as well.
You're 100% right, Larry. The only thing I can say, the only thing that I would like to say is, I mean, is it a financial thing? I believe all jobs here are financial and should be run by us. I don't know. I didn't happen to see the meeting about where they were going to get the money from, but I know a lot of the harbor master stuff is they have their own funds, they make their own money through fees and stuff, so, you know, it might have been available. But you're right as far as, it's the selectmen's question, not ours.
And so please ask your next question.
Okay. My next question was about, I heard Guy yesterday speaking on, he wanted a truck and it was for the wealth of the Wareham, and Wareham could benefit from this pumping thing of the sewer. Why isn't it's coming out of his budget, and it seems like they were giving him a hard time for these two issues that were coming out of their own budget and not the town. That's all I have to say.
I would also say that I don't know who you thought was giving him a hard time. I think there were questions asked, but it is in his budget, and that it has to come out because of the nature of the vehicle and where it's at. It comes out of Sewer Enterprise Fund accounting states that things have to be handled a certain way. But I don't think anybody was giving him a hard time. We were trying to understand how it was going to be used. That's all. Nobody's interested in giving anybody a hard time.
And I don't want anyone to think that I'm being critical, but I mean, I was in my home with other people, and those are the questions. And sometimes when you're home, you're wondering, especially where there was such a big group, why aren't these questions being asked, so that we could get a clear understanding on actually what's going on. So I'm not being critical. I think everybody does a good job, but there are questions that people have at home that aren't able to, and I thought that I would come in and ask.
I think that's
Okay.
great.
And I'd just like
That's
to
great.
take, I'd just like to take a stab at it again, thanking you for coming forward and asking that, because we don't always hear concerns like that. And one of the other things when we talk about, is it always financial? When we look at the department budgets, one of the things that we ask all of our department heads every year is, how can you save money? And how can you make more money for the town? And one of the things that the harbor master has done very well is making money through his department. And he's also been asked to pick up some other details. You did hear him talk about parking and litter. So he's picking up, his department is actually picking up some of the slack. He works well with municipal maintenance, well with the police department. He needs that support. That, again, it wasn't our decision to put that position in. We don't get to say about that, but I want to just give you a little bit of background about what all of the town departments are trying to do. Run more efficiently. We hear about cutbacks, but there are sometimes that you can make cuts that can be productive. Saving money isn't always just about cutting, so he's found efficient ways to do that and produce the revenue so he can do this within his own department budget. Yeah, there's a need for a lot of other things too. We're just working one piece at a time. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we get to the town administrator report, or do we need to get to the town administrator? Mr. Barrett from planning, we had some questions on a couple of the articles. If you don't mind, we'd like to take those out of order if anybody's imagine. I know that we had a couple of people that had questions on them, so if we could just go over the articles, and I don't think we're going to have anything real complicated for you, but
That's good, I didn't study.
yeah, neither did we. Let's see. Article, in your folders was a warrant that had explanations in it, except for the planning articles. Yeah.
What's the number, Larry, do you know?
So, yes, I'm getting to that. So in your folder, just make sure you have it. I believe it's no, that's not it.
22 is,
It's,
20,
right, but they start with
20, 21, 22.
20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. So Article 20, which we'll go to first, I'll have to tell you what it is, won't I? Okay. I could make it up right
Transfer
now.
development rights.
Article 20 is the transfer development rights. So if you want to give us a little explanation about that.
Well, that's the process where you can take the development rights attached to one area of town or one zoning district and move those rights, condense them, and move them into a smaller area. What's been proposed in the past is taking, and in this article too, is to take land in your watershed area, your zone 1 and 2, your R130 district, and your R60 districts, and allow the property owners to take the development rights inherent as of right in those properties and condense them into a smaller area. The example that's always used is 80 Makepeace could take their development rights from undeveloped land and move it into Tyhonet Village. We've also suggested East Wareham create a village there, Onset and Wareham villages. Toby Road area was on the list. Cranberry Highway, part of the commercial strip, could be a receiving parcel. It helps the developer in that he doesn't have to build his miles and miles of infrastructure. It helps the town because they won't have to maintain all that infrastructure once it's done. And it puts the development where a lot of your infrastructure already exists. So you're not extending sewer mains, you're not paving roadways, you're not maintaining roadways. And hopefully in the standard, it will give us a nice mixed-use project is what we're hoping to see, rather than miles and miles of paved roadway through environmentally sensitive areas, or not so environmentally sensitive, but through undeveloped land that would be best not developed.
Questions? Mr. Hurd?
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate your coming tonight. And I'm in favor of the transfer of development rights, but who controls that? How do we decide whether or not, when I am personally going to make a transfer of development rights, that it's in the best interest of the town and not just in the best interest of me?
Well,
I'm looking at what you've written here, and it doesn't provide that sort of detail.
that's what we've been struggling with, trying to make it, equally beneficial for a developer and the town. I don't know that we've nailed it 100%. I don't know of any community that has done this that gets it right. I know Carver is just making some adjustments to their TDR bylaw. But that's kind of been the tough part of this whole process. This started back in 2005, and I think there's been a half a dozen corrections with every review of it, and that's one of the reasons. We want to make sure that the town benefits out of this whole process.
Again, thank you. And I think it would be helpful if you could elaborate upon that somewhere along the line. I know town meeting will be looking for some more detail, and I know that members of the finance committee also would like more detail as to, you're talking about different villages as if they have not been established yet or have not been determined yet. If they have been determined, I'd like to know about that. I'd just like to know how you make those decisions.
Yeah, well, the main benefits to the town right out of the gate is, as I said, you don't have all these miles of infrastructure to take care of. You're not sending school buses out that, you're working within existing infrastructure. So that will it'll increase the tax base without increasing the cost of maintaining all this infrastructure. Yeah, you do have normal wear and tear that you're gonna have to pay for, but as far as tax value, most of the land we're looking to take the development rights from is probably in agriculture or land of low value. So by putting a conservation restriction, I don't think you're going to affect your tax income from that very much. I mean, you will reduce the value with a conservation restriction, but you're also going to increase the value of the sending parcel. So hopefully it'll be a positive. As far as villages, the Wareham and Onset Village obviously already exist, and if those rights were brought into either one of those in either a redevelopment or a reuse of existing structures, that would increase your tax value and I think by and large, the village concept is an improvement overall to having sprawl, so we say. Dollar-wise, I don't know. I think the improved density and good density would increase tax values, but that would be probably a question for the assessors.
I'm not questioning the value to the individual or to the town. I think it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
I would just like to know a little bit more sometime about how it works. And perhaps we could talk about that off the record or some other place.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mrs. Donahue.
I actually have a question I'd like to get on the record just for further clarification, because I understand the big picture of this is you take land, a big chunk of land that's mostly out in agriculture or hasn't been built on, and theoretically that landowner could build, say, 25 houses. But rather than him putting in a road and building out 25 individual house lots according to the zoning of that residential area, that's going to be the sending parcel.
Correct.
And then you're going to have a receiving parcel, which is in one of the more village areas or somewhere that already has a lot of development. Now, is it a 25 houses? Does he get the density in that area, even though it might not be zoned particularly for that? Is that how this is going to work?
Yeah, there are bonuses that density bonuses that you can award depending on what type of housing and what type of land you want to protect or encourage.
Okay.
You know.
Again,
So-
I'm also in favor of it.
You know.
We don't have the bylaw that's written yet. We haven't seen that.
26-page write-up.
I thought
Oh.
you were going to have that tonight. I thought
Okay. You know what, and I don't think we'll discuss it here. When is the hearing going to be on that?
The
have it scheduled?
23rd of October.
October 23rd. I was going to say, when's town meeting? Don't confuse me. So I think that it would be more beneficial to have the
have to check the
discussion
calendar.
there rather than to have you try to dig it all up again. Thank you. Okay.
21st, I'm
I
sorry.
apologize, George. We did actually get a copy of it last night. Silly me, I didn't read it this morning.
I just have one question. George, you think that this will tie the hands of any developers? Do you think that this will hinder any development in the long run?
I don't know why it would. You still have,
Yeah, I understand the concept. I just didn't know if you thought that it might, hinder development at all.
it, not so much hinder, but it will give probably more control because there are design standards and criteria they have to meet, and it's a negotiation with the planning board. So generally, they will be more,
Involved?
well, the developer will be under more scrutiny than he normally would,
Okay.
and has to meet design standards that he wouldn't have to meet in a normal subdivision.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, Article 21, which is amend the floodplain bylaw. And that's the one where it doesn't really matter what we vote.
Well, I would say it does, because if they don't accept the map panels, that leaves the last set of maps that we did approve that were found to have errors, that leaves them as our. And again, as with that set of maps, we were told back then that if you didn't approve them, people would not be able to get flood insurance, and people that did have some grandfathering rights as far as their rates go and their qualifications would have lost that. And I have to assume that these come with the same warning.
Any questions? Good on that one. 22 is the established zoning bylaws for the medical marijuana treatment centers.
Yeah, that's a case, last spring, when this was passed, nobody knew what was going to come out of the Department of Public Health. So at town meeting, we placed a moratorium on those centers. Since then, the Department of Public Health has come out with their rulings, and it's given the town some time to think of where these centers should go, if we even get one, and how it should be operated. And
Any
well, this
questions?
is more of a zoning, you know, they've created the use and inserted it in the institutional zone.
That's a logical step. I mean, you take the moratorium off, now you have to have rules to govern where you're gonna put them and how
Right.
you're gonna operate. I understand.
We still have some time left on the moratorium, but if by any chance we don't get to this now and the moratorium runs out, then it could go anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Any
When is
questions?
The hearing on this?
That's also the same night.
Just to be clear, last night we talked about the hearings are, what, a week before town meeting?
Yes.
Is that- So they're all gonna be done at the same time.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Bring a pillow.
I think I might have something to do that night. Sign regulations. Is that yours?
Yes, that's
Okay.
also the zoning bylaw. And that's a rewrite of the section of the bylaw to do with signs. With, let's say, Alan could probably give you a more in-depth discussion on that, but it's basically the planner, the building inspector, and selectmen, I think, were charged with looking at the sign bylaw and coming up with a solution for the various problems we've had with it over the years and problems people have had with signage. And this is result.
You wanna use the microphone there?
It actually goes back to 2010. It was a workshop group of one member of the planning board, the town planner, a member from the ZBA, and also the, at that time, Director of Inspectional Services. We worked on that for about a year, and then basically it kind of sat for about 3 or 4 months before it got back on track. And this is the final draft version. It's been vetted by Charlie Rowley, who's a town engineer. It's been vetted by the attorneys. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's a pretty good job for what people are asking for.
Thank you. Any questions? I think we have one more, and that is the tables.
No, can we go back one, can I have one question? Back
Sure.
on the signage, is there any, does this meet like all the federal requirements? You know, sometimes the feds, if you don't do, the state, I mean, you don't do certain signage, you lose money, highway stuff. Does this have anything to do with any of that, Alan? No. No?
No.
All we can do on a sign regulation is what's controlled under the town. If you're on a state highway or anything else, that's a separate set of rules.
Well, this had nothing to do with that. Okay,
Can't.
thank you. Okay.
Just as a quick aside, on the TDR, the front page that everybody I handed out yesterday has a synopsis by Attorney Whitten, making some recommendations, et cetera, on there about how we might simplify the whole project, because it's very difficult for anybody to understand the TDR processes. And it's difficult, so we may come back on the 21st with a much pared-down version of what you see now. And just as a quick answer to Mr. Hurd, it will be basically, if passed, it'll be in the zoning bylaws, it will be Article 18. And therefore, it basically, if someone wants to do it, they would come before the planning board, and it would be just a normal planning board process. So the planning board has full control over the awarding and the actual TDR process. So there's full controls in place with the bylaw.
Thank you.
I think there was one more. and that-
Mr. Chairman?
oh, I'm sorry.
I just, if we're expected to render an opinion on several of these, I know that the articles are written pretty plainly that we're gonna substitute this with this, but not having seen this and what that looks like, I can't see how we can render an opinion.
We'll take that into consideration on this.
Just as an aside for you, the Board of Selectmen intend to vote no action, because this will not be done, the hearings will not be finished, and any adjustments won't be made until past Kelly's date. So we'll be voting on all these articles, basically abstaining.
All right, and the last one is we already did the amending the zoning bylaws already. Well, we talked about that last night. but go ahead.
Yeah,
Just a
I'm
quick-
not quite sure you're actually going to see that. You may see no action on that because it may not be necessary, but it's in
Okay.
there. As I said last night, unfortunately, time-wise and advertising-wise, when we hold a public hearing on zoning articles, it's usually pretty close to town meeting, and puts us in a position where if good ideas come out of the public hearing, it's too late for us to rewrite something and put it back out there again. So if it's something that we can amend, then we'll strive to do that, or if it's something that's beyond that scope, then we look to further study something and come back with it. But unfortunately, the way timelines run, we can't have the public hearing, rewrite something, and then have another public hearing prior to town meeting. There just isn't time.
Any other questions? Thank you for coming and explaining it. Thank you very much. Mr. Sullivan, let's go back and do the financials real fast. I know everybody's tired from last night, but hopefully Derek will get through this quickly. What I'm going to suggest, and I know you're probably not going to like this, is that because we just got these tonight, which would be really nice if we got those in advance so that we had a chance to look at them before I think we could take a cursory look at the first, as far as the recap that you've done, and then we can come back and talk about these next week, if it's okay with you. So just go over the recap with us. And then as far as reading through these, if we get a chance, well, not tonight, but I mean, everybody go home and read, do your homework, I guess is the best way to say it. And then we'll look at this a little closer next week. So go ahead, Mr. Sullivan.
Yeah, if you've seen, this is for the August fiscal 2014 monthly expenditure report. As we've done in the past expenditure reports, I'm highlighting any of the new changes that have happened. If we've already spoken about the other ones and they seem to be resolved, we haven't delved into it. So the expected year to date is 16.7%. And now we'll go through the outliers. The first one is the accounting in the expenses section, which is 38.4%. And what I've put on here as well is the page inside the actual document. So if you see page 1, it literally means page 1 of the report, so it'll help find it a little easier for everybody. On the town accountant section, you'll see that they've expended $11,116 out of their approximately $29,000 expenditures budget. And as we've talked about before, they have hired a consultant to help with the close of the year end and also with the recap. And what you're seeing there is the expenditures for the consultant. So they're still within line for their regular budget, as well as the expenditures for the consultant. So even though it's an outlier, I don't feel that that one is an issue. If our accounting department goes over budget, I think that Judy will have a lot of people mocking her, so she's not going to do it. The next is the assessor's expenses, which is 22.6%, and that is on page 2. And the simple explanation is what we said before. At the beginning of the fiscal year, there are many expenses that are one-time payments. The $3,180 payment is for part of RRC, which is what we hired to pick up our personal property in the assessing department. So that is within line. The third one is the police personal and the section, and that's at 17.6%. In any other department, it would probably be something that's not noteworthy, but as we know, the past few years, we've needed to make transfers at the end of the year. So we are focusing on this one. One of the main reasons for it to be over would be the department has expended 60% of the seasonal budget, which is in line for budgeting. And by seasonal on this, I mean the seasonal officers that they have. So they have them for July, August, and June. So expending 60% of that budget is within line for having them done, for having them work and being available in June. The department has spent $45,000 less this fiscal year in salary than they had the previous fiscal year. However, we need to remember we've reduced their budget as well by well over $100,000. The overtime expenditures have been the same. So the overtime has not gone down. One of the issues we had with overtime last year was in the middle of the year we had multiple injuries and sicknesses that overexpended, created a real issue with the department. So we've also, one of the things we're doing is bringing on hopefully a new officer that we can bring right on out of the intermittent program, so they don't have to go through the police academy. It's somebody that's worked as one of the seasonals, and that should help with the overtime as well. Believe it or not, it's better for us to have another officer on staff, because I know we are going to have at least one more coming off of the, they're currently not able to work, but as soon as they come off of the rolls, we'll have their funds available as well, so.
Well, I got the question in my mind. Do you mind if I ask this?
Yeah.
Just because when you hit me with that, we reduced the police budget by $100,000, and they're $45,000 less than last year. So that means they're $55,000 overspent.
No, if we've spent 45,000 less and we've taken 100,000 out of their whole budget, and if you put that over the 12 months, so. What you'd think is you'd give a value of about 8,000 something per month. So if you've done 2 months, so that'd be $16,000 would have been reduced. So if they've gone down 45,000, you'd look that they've spent essentially 29,000 less than the previous year.
We might want to work on the explanation, because if you're telling us that they've spent $45,000 less than last year, but the budget was reduced $100,000. So if they've only spent $45,000 less, there's still a gap of $55,000. Right, I understand what you're saying, but that's what this comment, I'm not disputing what you're saying. I'm saying based on the comment you made, that means they're still over budget by a significant amount.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying by looking at the comment?
Yeah, I could probably explain that a little better.
Just a little closer to, because that caught my attention. I was doing the math.
So. Oh, the next item we have is Council on Aging, the personal line, 20.1%. That is on page 9. So these are the salaries that should be charged off to grants, but they're hitting the department's budget. So we have they need to be either reclassified or a journal entry done. And these are some of the items we're working on, because when we have the management letter, you want to have as little journal entries as possible. So try and fix these before they happen. Even one of the things that has happened departmentally is it's always been easier to just do it and have a journal entry done and later on to correct it. And that's not the right way to do it. So the next line item is Veteran Services and District Veteran Assessment. And those are on page 9. We have a one-time yearly assessment of $23,000, and that was charged to the budget. Current projections have the expenditures at $311,000 for the fiscal year, and $313,000 was budgeted. the budget has been increased from 275,000 in FY13. So if you remember at the end of FY13, we had to put more money into that account. And we have it basically as two things. The district veteran assessment is what the veteran services charge us. Basically, it's our portion of their costs. They're just passing it on. And the district veteran assessment are the fees that are paid to the veterans themselves. The town receives 75% in reimbursements, but you get that in the next fiscal year in the cherry sheet. So under the cherry sheet aid. So when we see that cherry sheet aid and we see the numbers for the veterans, we've actually lost 25%. So, but in looking at it, I mean, it's close. We have about a $2,000 buffer, and if we have more people that move into town, that's what's happened. You have people that move in or have come back and they have the assessments, and the town has to pay for them. So obviously there's no complaining about it. It's what we should do and have to do. But that's why, you know, any given month can change on it. So.
Do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I like the format that you presented. It's very good. I do have a question on veterans, and it probably applies to others also, and it's my ignorance. Maybe you can educate me a little bit. You said that the veterans budget was $313,000, and yet on page 9, I see a different number. I see 289,000.
You should see 289,000, and then there's the district assessment should be budgeted for 24,000, which is a separate line.
Thank you for educating me.
I want to point out too, I don't think we have a lot of control over that item on there. Is that correct?
We have to pay it, and that's. They also, what happened was at the end of last year, they let us know and said, "Hey, we've had somebody that's been held up and hasn't received approximately $15,000 worth of payments." And looks like they're going to be cleared, and you're going to have to pay them the back amounts. So we never held up the payments. We didn't do anything. The district office was fighting it or had an issue with it. But at the end of the year, that pops up, and you try to make it up. So it's every now and again we have these fun little things that we don't have control over, but it affects our budgets. So the last item that I have on here is the library, and it's both their expenses and the personnel line. And if you see page 9 again is the library. But the library has $70,000 pledged from the foundation, $10,000 from the trustees, and $10,000 from the friends. So I know that they've kept their budget up with those numbers. So I'm going to reach out to Ms. Medeiros and find out where are those funds? Have we received them? Why is this being hit against the budget and not against the gift account, which I'm assuming they've gone into? Or do we have to transfer from the gift account to do this? But right now it doesn't look very good because they're overexpending the budget until those monies have been changed or we're hitting against it. So.
Anybody else have any more questions? Okay. Is that it on that?
Yeah, this was, I mean, like I said, if you take the one from previous, you'll see there's some of the items, the selectmen expenses and such. There hasn't been really any change on them. They should be well within line. The only other one and I really want to take a look at it, I haven't been able to do a true analysis of it, is municipal maintenance salary. I would have expected that to go down because we had a one-time payment in July for retirement. So there's something with the salary, and I just I want to take a look at it and just see if I'm missing something as to what's going on. I printed it out from the accounting, and the problem is you just have the weekly figures. I can't break it down by person or what's going on. So, like I said, we were at 9.3% the month before, and it's gone a little, which was I think about, what, 1% over what it had been before, or what it should have been, and now it's over 1%. So I really want to get my hands on that and see what's going on, see if there's an issue, something that I'm just not seeing, or if there's a seasonal nature to some of the work they're doing. But I want a good explanation on that, and I'm not going to write one down until I truly understand it. So.
You got anything else for us?
This would be the quick and,
I know, but we would like you to hang around for just a couple of questions.
yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, when we get, yeah, just hang out. Make some at home. Grab a water. Okay, we're gonna, I don't know if we're going to, well, we're obviously not gonna vote on all articles tonight, but we can recap some of the articles, get some of our questions out of the way, because we did no deliberation last night. And I needed Mr. Sullivan to hang around for a couple of them, because there are gonna be some questions I'm sure that he's going to be able to answer for the rest of us. And so I'm going to try to go through the ones that he could answer first, which I think the school article for the roof, which is Article 13. The question that came up last night, and I'm not sure it wasn't answered enough to make me happy. It's the feasibility study for the Wareham High School for the potential roof, and there are several hoops that have to be jumped through. One is there's a study that has to be done, and I believe the study is around $60,000. And the answer last night was we would find the money from somewhere. I'm not comfortable with find the money from somewhere, because clearly that's a large, as much as all of us, we would love to see that roof get fixed, and there's several other things we'd like to see, but we're broke, and we're asking to spend $60,000 that, and I know we need the roof, and if we don't do it, we're probably going to end up having to pay for the whole roof ourselves, which now we'll get reimbursed. I think it's up to 68 cents on the dollar for that by the state. I think it's a state.
Yeah, it's state,
It's a state.
MSBA.
So in order to do all that, we need to come up with $60,000, and have you, now that you've had a night to think about it, is this something that is doable? You talk to me a little more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, I think, first off, we're all of the, I'm not going to speak for the finance committee, but I'm on the same mind that I think it's something that needs to be done and will save us money into the future, as well as getting the reimbursement. But I can tell this committee, I don't have a place in the town side budget to pull that money from to pay for it. So that's the only answer that I have for it.
Okay.
And I know we all taxpayers pay to one entity, but we know that there's the budgets are split up in a certain way. But what would be considered the town side, I don't have the funding for it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. Since I wasn't actually aware of this, but when in the Article 1 it says in excess of $20,000, because I know the question will be asked, what is the exact figure?
We're going to get to that one next. That's next. I was just asking the question about the 60,000 for the roof, but now we got to that. Now that we're there, let's just start from the very beginning with the one, which is the transfer funds from reserved for appropriations for insurance, which I think last night was basically explained as this was damage from the storm,
Yep.
and this is money that was reimbursed from the insurance. So I think the cost, and I have it written down somewhere. 54,000. What was is it an exact amount?
Yeah, I think he had it on that $54,740.55.
Okay. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54,740. 54, Okay,
Thank you.
54,000, what was it?
$740.55.
Right.
55 cents.
And I tried to keep that 55 cents, but
That's
they
right.
wouldn't.
And they made you give it back. Do you want to go through and discuss the articles and vote on the ones that are easily voted on, like this one? Everybody okay with that? Okay. All right, any questions on Article 1? Anybody need any more explanation? All right, I will entertain, what is it? A motion?
I will move favorable action on Article 1 to transfer funds from the Receipts Reserve for Appropriations Insurance Recovery over $20,000 account to the school budget.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstain? 7, 0, 0. The second one's also easy. What are we referring to this now as the Paulson article? This is a, hold on, I've gone backwards here. I got it right behind me. There we go. Article 2 is to establish an account, a separate fund to begin the process of dealing with our other post-employment OPEB benefits. It has no dollars going into it, it's just establishing the account.
Correct.
Is there any questions? I'll entertain it. Pardon me?
It'll make Mr. Paulson happy.
It'll make Mr. Paulson happy when there's money in that art. All right, motion, please? You do the motions, you do this.
I move favorable action on Article 2 to establish a fund to be known as the Other Post-Employment Benefits Liability Trust Fund.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? 7, 0, 0. All right, this is, I'm sorry I'm keeping you here, but I just, from the dollar standpoint, I want to get the exact dollars in where I can. The third article, I have 104,000 for the triannual reval and certification. Is that what you have?
Yeah, I'm looking for my document that I'd put together last night because it was a little bit
I have it.
over. It was 104,000. I think I want to say 331, but if I
I don't think the document I got had any figures on it. did it?
no, that's I had. It's I'll give away my trade secret. I do write things down when I come to the meeting. I'm trying to figure out what I.
I have 81,599 from reserve sale of real estate.
Well,
and then-
that would be the other part. Once we know how much, where it's coming from is
But
really
mine don't
critical.
add up to 104, so that was my
Yeah,
concern.
what we'd been given from Miss Miller was there's a true range because we're doing RFPs and we don't know how much it's going to cost. So the estimate that we have for a low is 100,000 to 120,000 is the high. I only have 104,000 and change available. But this continues over 2 fiscal years. So the next fiscal year, if it was more, we would have to budget that or pull it out. We're going to have some more sales this year from the RRFA sale of real estate.
Do we vote for the big ballpark of 120,000? Is that what you're saying? And we can only, the question I have is because we only have 104,000 available for us to vote for 120, that means you're going to have to.
What he's saying is he can pay the difference
Yeah,
in
I
next
think
fiscal year.
what I would say is we do the 104,000 because if we do the 120, we're actually appropriating that. So
That was my
Yeah.
point. All right, so what was the total amount that you want us to use in that?
here we go.
104.
If we want to split it up, I'll just so that everybody sees it, $81,599 from the RRFA sale of real estate. And then we're going to transfer from the salary line of the assistant assessor / data collector, $22,814.01.
Just writing it down, right?
I I am, but, so is the motion going to be to transfer from available funds, and we're going to get rid of the raise and appropriate? Do we-
Yeah, when we're putting the motion together, well, I want to work with Judy on that, see how we're going to do it. But it should actually be two transfers, because if we're raising and appropriating, that's from taxation, but we already have these available. One's an account, and one's what we've budgeted as well. So I think we'll transfer. And what this then does is creates its own article that we hit against.
That's 104,000.
So you need the exact amount then, so it's
Yeah.
104 what?
413.01. So $104,413.01.
And we're not raising, we're appropriating,
We're transferring.
transferring. So
Yeah.
you'll do that,
Yeah, it's going to be important to say, well, I move that we transfer $81,599 from the RRFA sale of real estate fund and $22,814.01 from the salary line of the assessors as voted at the annual town meeting. And that's how it will be put together. So yeah, we have the numbers, but let's work with Judy, Claire, and Rich on it, because there's an interesting thing. You have somebody that's looking at it from an attorney standpoint, somebody that's looking at it from a moderator standpoint, and they're usually pretty well in line. But we're also going to have somebody looking at the accounting standpoint, and sometimes that's the one that wins over at the end with it, because the Department of Revenue will look at all of these.
So do you want us to use the actual number of 104,413, or do we just want to
No.
say 104?
has to be two separate ones.
Yeah, I would say you're going to say where you're bringing it from. So it's the receipts reserved for appropriation, the 81,599, and then you're going to do the 22,814.01 from the assessor's salary line.
Okay.
Or we could wait till next week till you have that.
What's that?
Because I don't want us voting on an article that's half-baked.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's not half-baked, it's just,
We understand the concept.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying
It's just
to.
ironing
It's
out
going
the
to print
details
a
for the
little
motion.
Yeah,
different.
I think what I thought what you were asking is what the motion's going to be on the floor for town
No,
meeting.
we're-
Are you
We
saying
can
what
solve
the?
that later, I just wanted to know what you wanted me to move forward with here.
Right, whatever we're voting on here, I don't want to vote
Okay.
on something that's not going to match up
If
with what
we
you're.
vote on it as
Okay.
printed here, and we refine it for the motion, I think we're okay.
No, because the motion's going to change.
The actual motion that'll be on the town meeting floor will probably be different than the motion you're doing tonight.
Right, which
I
is-
don't know how the committee would
Vote
want it.
anyways.
Well, the
whether-
concept's not going to change.
Concept's
Yeah,
not gonna
Okay,
change.
all right, well then I'll entertain a motion on Article 3.
I'll move favorable action on Article 3 to see if the town will vote to raise and
No, to transfer.
to transfer from available funds a sum in the
104th?
104,413.01 or other amount as verified by the accountant from the RRFA and from the assessor's salary line.
RRFA sale of real
Sale
estate.
of real estate. So if those numbers change, we'll still be okay.
All right,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Anybody abstain? 700. I'm going to skip over the harbor man. Well, we can,
We don't,
I don't know. Yeah, let's do the harbor masters. What the heck? Article 4, which is the transfer from the waterways account to the harbor masters maintenance and improvement accounts. We had a handout last night on how the money was going to be spent.
it's actually in here as well.
Is it in there?
It's in here.
I just have a quick question on that,
Ask away.
since I wasn't in attendance. I'm going to assume you take Article 4 and Article 5 together. I assume this is one boat costing $38,000?
It is.
Thank you so much.
It is. Because of the balances in the account,
Yes,
which we were given
I
last night.
understand that, yeah.
You cool? Okay.
It's a cool boat. It's a Carolina skiff. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
a lot cheaper than what they were looking at originally, which was, I guess, somewhere around 80 or 90,000.
The six-figure boat is gorgeous, but we're
test ride?
we're not quite there yet.
We don't need the drink holders.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions, comments? Yes.
I do. He showed us pictures last night of two Carolina skiffs, which we already have.
No.
No,
He-
Bluffs.
those were Oak Bluffs, Carolina.
We do have, but we,
This one, which is the Oaks Bluff launch.
Yeah, he had spoken about the skiffs that we have. We have a 14-footer, I think, that we use for the ponds, and an 18-footer that we use for pumping out boats. And you wouldn't want to put anybody on a pump-out boat.
Okay, now my question is,
Marilyn, with the mic.
oh, sorry. My question is, he didn't give us any figures of how much he thought this would bring in revenue. I know he said 700 boats, but of those 700, they're not all going to be looking for the water taxi service. He counted those that were at Independence Point Yacht Club, and they have their own ferry service.
I don't know that they do.
They do. I've been on it.
All right.
They do have their own ferry service. If you moor there, most times when people are coming through, or at least when I've been coming through in the boats, we come, and if we don't stay in within the canal, let's say it's Sandwich, which is very small, we come through and we don't want to make it across Buzzards Bay in the chop or at night, and we pull into Independence Point Yacht Club. We have a reciprocal. Most yacht clubs have reciprocal. If you can stay at my yacht club up in Boston, and I'll come down to yours, because you like to be at the dock because you have electricity and you have water at the dock. If you're out on a mooring, you don't have that. But they will come bring you in and out. Oak Bluffs does not have it. Edgartown does. They have a little water taxi, but I don't believe it's owned by the town. I think it's owned by a private concern that goes out and brings you in and out, and they have a schedule. He didn't say how much of what he thought for revenue this would bring in. He did say he had 5 transient spaces, but are we going to buy a great big boat just for the 5 transient spaces, or is this going to be a water taxi service for people who just have their boats moored out in the harbor? I know I have mine out there, and I have a small dinghy that I row out to, get on it, leave it hooked up to the mooring, then when I come back, I row back in. So I didn't know how often this would be used and how much money to expend this. It seemed to me like I'd love a pilot program to see if it's going to bring us in money like you did with the kiosk. But I'm not crazy about jumping in with both feet until I know how much it's going to bring us back in revenue. And I don't just mean the boat itself. I mean the liability. I mean, a lot of these people are going to come back on that boat and not be exactly straight. They could fall in the water. If that boat hits my boat, I'm going to sue because you marked it. And there's a lot of other liabilities that I don't like with this launch. I guess that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, there's my understanding from what Gary said was this thing, counting the 700, if it's Point Independence and they have their own water taxi, I don't know. But if you look at the numbers, and especially what we're seeing in 2014, I think you're talking about a pilot program. I don't know how else we would do it as a pilot program except the way we're going about it. In all honesty, for the harbor master, having another boat for the way they use it, I don't think they wouldn't find a use for it if this were a complete disaster. But we look at it, the amount of people that come in and out, it is going to be a water taxi service. And one of the things we're doing as well is, I don't know if you're one of them, but we have people stashing their dinghies all over the place on our properties. Yeah, not happening anymore. Yeah, you're going to be paying for it. It's not right. It doesn't look good, and realistically, it's not what it's there for. So I know that right by the harbor where we are, I think there's about 150 boats that can moor, and I see from the yacht club back and forth nonstop. going to multiple boats, going in, going out, going to the restaurants, coming back. You know, we're looking at doing a fee for 1 year for the full season. Then we're also looking at doing, so if people come and they're just in there for overnight, one-time fees for going back and forth. You know, if you looked at it, if you had the 700 boats, if maybe only 300 used it the entire time, but how many times are they using it? Are they buying it ahead of time? If it was 100 boats that are using it and they paid a $200 fee for the entire season, how much money are you looking at? You're looking at $20,000. Not going to cover it, but that's if 1/7 of the people used it and paid for the whole amount. So I think it's got the bones on how to really make it. Can I tell you the true projections on everything? I really can't. I think this is one that we're going to get our feet wet into because it is like the kiosk program. I could tell you what we made on it before. I could not have told you in my wildest dreams that essentially in 6 weeks we would make $50,000. I wouldn't have believed it if I told you. So I know facts and figures should probably have the whole business plan laid out, but we're really looking at something that's working in other towns. It's working for other municipalities, and we have the ability to do it. And I really want to make it so that we bring more boaters in here. They know that they can get to shore, that they may not have to have their little dinghy if they're going to row it and they're not necessarily straight. So I know it's a long-winded non-answer probably, but I can't tell you what the exact projections would be.
Has he done any projection? Has he done any projections at all?
I would, yeah.
He has.
So I don't have him with me here, and I know he didn't listen here, but it's
What he did say was that he had gone to other towns, other municipalities, and looked at their programs as well. So, you know, I believe we have one of the best harbor masters in the Commonwealth. So he doesn't do anything without a purpose. And that last night was the question was asked. And that was the question I was looking for was, you know, we don't want to throw money out there and not have revenue coming back in. And I think that he's shown that in the past, that he's gone out and done the research to get the information.
he's able to do a lot of things with having the harbor service permit fees and such, but he's not just absorbing them into his budget. He's reinvesting it and trying to bring in more people, which ultimately brings in more revenue, but makes our town a better place. So that's one of the things I like about it. It's an entrepreneurial spirit in a municipality, which is something probably we lack a lot of the times. So that's why one of the reasons that I've been supportive of it, because I think if you do have programs, we are anticipating such an influx. And you're right. I mean, Sandwich would kill to have what Wareham has for the harbors, for anything like that. If you've ever gone in there and used the little little area there, there's not much to it. So.
No. And has a lot of seagull excrement.
Dominic, did you have something?
I did. I just think if it cleans up the dinghy problem in the pier, it'd be worth it all by itself. Because that is a mess. That is. It's terrible the way it is. That's all I got to say.
Any other questions?
Between paying parking on the piers and my dinghy comment, I may be sleeping with the fishes.
All right, I will entertain a motion on Article 4.
I move favorable action on Article 4 to transfer from the Waterways account to the Harbor Master's Maintenance and Improvements account.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
I'm opposed.
All right. Any abstentions? So it's 6-1-0. Article 5 was the transfer as well. I've gone backwards. 4 or 5. Here we go. Article 5, you want to talk a little bit about that? I know there's going to be questions.
Yeah, I think Article 5, that's the 103,000. So part of that as well, we did the 10,000 for the boat from the other article. Does everybody have the paper that Gary gave out last night?
Yep.
So if you go through it, you've got to purchase and equip a launch that will provide the service. Next item for 8,500 is patrol boat dockage and vessel maintenance, which is cover costs of dockage, service, and repairs to patrol boats. Dock materials, looking to build 2 new docks for Bessie Park and help to fund the expansion of the docks at Tempest Knob. Safety equipment, upgrades to life jackets, medical kits, tow lines, rescue equipment on patrol boats and vehicles. Like anything, it's you don't want a 10-year-old medical kit when we're using on people. And this is one I'm going to guess there's going to be a question on. You've got the full-time assistant harbor master position, which would provide two assistant harbor masters. But what he has written is, funds are being requested to hire a second full-time assistant harbor master. Our department is responsible for the oversight of one of the largest towns in Buzzards Bay and the 7th largest in the state for moored vessels. We maintain and patrol the waterways, public access areas, mooring field management, freshwater pond enforcement, provide law enforcement for maritime and natural resources, provide pump-out services, maintain miles of herring runs and ladders. We terminated the herring commissioners or agents. So they've had to take care of that on their own. Manage all shellfish propagation enforcement efforts, monitor public beaches, park enforcement. We also manage approximately 125 navigational aids, swim lines, transient vessels, and the onset pier. The growing demand is making it very difficult for only 2 people to handle, and providing a second assistant full-time harbor master will help us structure our department to handle the growing needs of our waterways. They also do, in the off-season, do the permits for the beaches and for the dump stickers as well. I've seen in November, Mr. Buckminster and the assistant going out to a boat that sunk in a storm because the people never pulled it off the mooring. And one of the things people forget is that even though the busy season we would consider for tourists and such as June through August, they are starting to put everything together back in February, whether it's getting their vessels ready, and they're pulling everything out and working on it probably well through November. And then they start running their department again and put all the stickers out. I think they had, 15,000 stickers that they put out, something like that. It was, so the department, and, it's probably what's typical for the way, what's been happening with our town, with the way we've been bringing everything back, is one of the smallest harbor masters we have in the area, for some of the biggest part. Now, Mr. Buckminster also said he would remove one of the seasonal employees as well, which wouldn't offset it, but for the summer months you would have those funds back, and he's pulling money out of the I think this one's the Harbor Master's Maintenance and Improvement Account and the Harbor Service Permit piece. So.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just have this one. I don't know, the docks at Bessie Park, was this extension? I know there was so many, he had originally so many docks, and then he wanted a couple more to do farther. Is this an extension, or is this repair of something that's been ruined already?
No, there's going to be, my understanding is it's an extension of the docks that exist
Okay,
already. Yeah. And with the, hopefully with the Greer lumber building coming down, we're starting to really look at an area that's going to be rehabbed and even nicer for everybody to go to. So.
I have a concern down there, because it just seems like sometimes I see 1 or 2 boats down there, and I oftentimes wonder, are we building docks for people to fish on, or are we building docks for people to actually dock at?
Yeah, there's hey, people are fishing off of them. We're hoping to do a little bit more of the kayaks, get them involved in coming in there, and part of it is to get people to come and Yeah, we've all experienced is going and, well, actually, I've never experienced it, so I won't say that. But going by boat to an area and then hopping off the dock and
Yep.
being able to go to the local restaurants and such. And I think that's part of what we're trying to do to help the Main Street area as well, because my goodness, if it wasn't for the rail tracks and the street going over that, we would be able to have dockage on the back of a main street, and the world would be our oyster.
I know one of the questions that's going to come up, so anybody else before I ask it? You have a certain amount of money in there for the full-time harbor master position. And I think it came up last night and it wasn't really answered. Was there benefits involved in that position as well?
Right.
Is that covered as well?
The money being pulled out of here, the $24,500, wouldn't cover the benefits of it. What I said last night is I wouldn't know what the benefits truly are until you have the person on board. We have had people that have left and are no longer taking our health insurance, and if we're really, when we put the health insurance together at the beginning of the year, Group Benefit Strategies gives us an estimate, and part of it's not just the employees we've had, but the experience of what we've had over the last few years. So you do have some area where if you gain somebody or lose somebody, you're still within the realm. They're fairly conservative, and I'm listening to them, so that's, I would feel that they've probably given us a higher number than what would be needed, but, let's hope that that's the case.
Yes.
How many assistant harbor masters do we presently have?
One.
One. And we're giving that up.
No, we would have 2 assistant harbor masters. I think he has, 9 seasonals?
And 9 seasonals.
All right, so we'd bring the seasonals down to 8.
Thank you.
Did you mention in there that he also is writing tickets for the parking areas as well as collecting the coins?
I have an estimate, and Gary's probably going to kill me. I've estimated that he's brought in $15,000 worth of parking revenues, or written $15,000 worth of tickets, and if we get 2/3 of that, that's an extra $10,000 that he's brought in alone on that.
So that'll cover the benefits portion of this position.
Yeah, they're not just doing the Pier 2, they've gone to all the beaches, and probably one of the things people should know is we used to have the senior work-off program sit in front of the beaches and check passes and such. Well, it was one that people didn't want to do, and realistically, I looked at it, and I'm not trying to be harsh, but having seniors in 90-degree heat, we don't have the facilities to have an air conditioning area in some of those beaches, didn't seem like the greatest idea to me. So we didn't have them anymore, and we put the signage up that it's you need the pass to park, and we had the police, but the harbor master and his staff were especially excellent, going through there and ticketing for the people that didn't have the stickers. Or what they found this year was we had stickers that were photocopied, stickers that were photoshopped. We had stickers that were on different cars that people were passing along. So we've changed up a lot of it. Oh yeah. And they got tickets right away. We had people that would write little notes that said, "I've got a sticker on my other car, but I had more people come, so we're using this one. It's bigger."
All right. Any other questions?
Unbelievable.
I will entertain a motion on Article 5.
I move favorable action to transfer from the Harbor Services permits receipts to the Harbor Master's Maintenance and Improvements account, the sum of $103,000.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Me.
Anybody abstain? 6-1-0. I said harbor master, not harbor master.
I read it, Harbor Master, twice.
Now, my understanding is line painting's not going to happen,
Correct.
so we're not gonna take any action on that. Wow.
We're gonna have lineless streets.
So Article 7 is the purchase of a vacuum truck.
Line 6.
This is, wow. I'm still a little lost on this one because I think that the figure that was being used was $80,000.
Yeah, the reason we have an article in here, originally Mr. Campino was going to use, was looking at one of two things, using certified retained earnings or using the reserve fund within his budget. If you even though it's a reserve fund, you technically, and it's in his own budget, my understanding is you technically have to go through town meeting and the sewer commissioners to move that out. You know, if they were purchasing a new one, it would be a capital item, which has to go before town meeting. I know that town council is conservative on this. It's probably the right course. I'm just, since we're doing it with his own budget line, I'm really concerned that unless we're saying just to purchase the vehicle and we can give a price, but if you're doing a transfer or anything, I'm worried we're going to double appropriate on it because it's already been budgeted. We're already using funds within his own line. So we can't raise and appropriate. If we're transferring it, it's transferring from a line that he can expend out of already. So, well, I think it's good that the public gets to know this is being done because I think it's good for the ratepayers and such, and it's going to save them some money. I really don't know if this needs to come before town meeting.
I was just going to clarify that. So what you're saying is this may not be something that we have to vote on. So at this point, I would just suggest that we hold this item.
We should hold this one anyway.
Yeah, because I think the only other thing, and I'm sorry to interrupt, is say I wouldn't mind if we came to town meeting to authorize the purchase of the vehicle, and just let everybody know what's going on. I don't think there's anything wrong with over disclosure, but I don't think we're transferring that to anything.
May I?
Sure.
The concern with that is if we desperately need something, the town meeting may not approve it. There's always that
Right.
chance. So
Right.
let's have a little more conversation on the reality of how this is being funded through his budget and
Yeah.
what
The
town-
worst possible scenario is, you're right, is that town meeting doesn't approve it, and what if we go ahead and buy it anyways? It's
That's-
a terrible
So let's
message
finish
to
looking through the
send.
technicality
Yeah.
of it before we
No.
move forward with it.
I think that's a good course of action.
I'm going to skip over 8, 9, and 10 and go to 11. I want to try to get Derek out of here because, you know, he has to read bedtime stories later tonight. Article 11 is the transfer of funds to fund parking kiosk program. The amount was,
$25,000.
I'm looking. I don't believe you. Yep, there it is, 25. Want to talk a little bit about it? This is my only concern with this one. I understand that there's certain costs that need to be offset, but, and again, maybe I'm just misunderstanding this, but how much does a kiosk cost?
A kiosk would cost approximately $6,500. We still have to bid for it because it's going to be over. If we're going for any more than one, we're going over 10,000. If it's under 10,000, you still have to seek the quotes. Since it's less than 25,000, you're still seeking. You have to seek written quotes. But so 6,000, about 6,500, and whatever. I think you usually pick up tickets, so maybe about $500 for the tickets and any associated equipment. Then we have to put in the concrete pad. We do the installation for that because it saves us money and also helps us not having to worry about any sort of construction procurement either. So,
My question then is, it's not a capital expenditure is what you're saying.
correct.
So you don't have to come back to town meeting.
No, if I were going for for 4 or more, it would trigger, because it's technically, especially since we're listing as a program, it would technically be a capital expenditure purchasing in such a group bulk, but we wouldn't be doing that much. A, we don't have the money for it, and B, I really don't know how many areas we'd be able to put the kiosks in for next year. Why we're seeking so people understand why I'm seeking to pull the funds out now is what we ran into this year. We were not able to have it up and running to mid-July, so July 18th. And again, July 18th to the end of August, we pulled out and about $50,000. And before that, we'd pulled in $5,000. So even though June was actually a wonderful, warm, hot month, I don't want to. You don't remember we had a couple 90-degree days. Yeah, I feel we missed out on a lot of revenue, and if we were to purchase them and make sure everything's all set up in time, we're probably looking at putting in order in January. They will configure it. We'll work on the configurations with them, and hopefully they'd be in by March. We'd have them up and running by April, and looking at it to make sure there's no bugs in there, and also alerting people to the areas and try and get as much information out. So if we waited till the April town meeting, we'd be lucky to have them up by mid-September again.
Any other questions? Yes, Mrs. Donning.
Is part of the related expenses signage for other areas and say no parking zones or?
Yeah, for the parking program, we'd have to put in whether it's going to be residents only, what type of parking it's going to be, for that we put up in some of the lots. Also try and make sure, start putting out what the costs are as well. And what I really envision is that we're always upgrading this program and making it easier and better for people.
Which is another probably silly, nitpicky question, but in this, the way it's written here, we have capital parking kiosk program. Do we have a official parking kiosk program, or could we please make those lowercase letters?
Oh, that's right.
It is kind of nitpicky, but yeah, and with town council, and he had no problem changing it. I just
Yeah.
wanted to confirm that, in fact, we don't have a written parking kiosk program policy. So we're going to put this in lowercase. Kelly, can you just make that note, and then we don't have an issue with it? Thank you.
Yeah. Because one of the things we still need is CETA's put together as the parking study that had been put together by one of the consultants, and really that's going to help steer us as to best practices and how we accomplish
And
our
until we have
goals.
something like that in place, let's keep it lowercase.
Any other questions?
I have one. This 25,000 you are putting in a separate account, and what's the balance left in the other account?
From this account, we're probably only going to have a few thousand left in the account, about 2,000 or 3,000. If you remember when we went to town meeting, from one of the transfers from available funds within the revenue side, we took $30,000 out of there. Not all the money. I know what we've brought in because with our kiosks, I can log in online and see what the transactions have been, and I can tell you they've brought in, the 56,000 altogether so far. But having that amount isn't within that line item yet because of the accounting mechanisms. So when we go to fall town meeting, I thoroughly expect the full amount to be in there. But if it's not, I'm not going to play the game of I know it will be in there. I will reduce the amount to be pulled out of there. Because for me, it's better safe than sorry.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion on Article 11.
I move favorable action on Article 11, transfer the funds from, to transfer $25,000 from receipts reserved for appropriation parking at Onset Pier to fund the parking kiosk program.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Anybody abstain? 700. Miraculously enough, Article 12 is not going to be used at this point.
Well, we're still good on it. but-
Congratulations.
And just to understand the magnificent job we're doing in accounting and as an administrator, this is a hot button item, has been for years, that bills were
WB Mason bill that always
Yeah.
shows up? Yeah.
laying on people's desks and didn't get paid. And so this year there are none, which is pretty good. So
Fabulous.
great job. And from Mrs. Lazan too, as well.
She's done an excellent job. I'm very, very happy with her work in her office and the department heads as well, because they're the ones not letting something sit around. So
I want to go down to there's not anything at this point for the ratified union contracts. Do you want to say anything on that one?
no, like I said, the only item I could see is the steel workers, lower and upper management. We know the approximate cost, it would be about $20,000, roughly 10 per. We have the money set aside in a previous article. I just would really, if we don't need to pull it out of that article, I'd like to be able to use that for future consideration.
Okay, so we'll just hold that for the time
Right.
being on that one as well. The civil fingerprinting of vendors it's a bylaw.
Mm-hmm.
This is an adoption of a state policy, I believe, as well.
Yeah, I don't quote Mass General laws, but in 2010, Governor Patrick signed it into law, which authorized it. Yeah.
Anybody have any questions on it? Yes.
Yes, I have one question. What has the police department said about this particular law? It's going to put a burden on them. Have they provided an opinion?
It was submitted by the acting police chief requesting that we do this. So I haven't. The rank and file hasn't approached me on it, but as far as my understanding is, the department head wants this and thinks that's good for the town. So
I think the fees will cover the administrative side of it. I'm more curious how, and again, it's a law, but that doesn't mean it's going to be enforced that way, and that's where we always run into things. But any more comments, questions? Go for
Just
it.
for the purpose of debate on this committee, I guess my concern, which was voiced a little bit last night, is we're trying to make this a encouraging community to have businesses come into. And this is one more roadblock and one more complaint. If we're going to do something like this, we need to make sure it goes through smoothly and that people know where to go, and you don't have to go to 3 different buildings and 3 different departments to maybe figure out what's going on. That's a real complaint that I've heard from people trying to do business in this town over the years.
The other issue is if you're going to be a hawker or a vendor at the Blues Festival, the Cape Verdean Festival, and I don't know what the turnaround is on getting this done, but that could be also a problem if you're not a state certified vendor and you come before the police. I guess it's going to be doing this. I don't know what the turnaround is because it obviously involves the FBI and fingerprinting. So if you don't know about it and you come the day before, I don't know that, I don't know what the turnaround is on that. So that may create an issue. Again, enforcement's going to be the more critical aspect of this. How do we enforce it and how strict we are? So,
yeah, I think it's going to be like anything that makes a successful program is the communication and getting the information out there. Make sure that the Onset Blues, Cape Verde, and any of the festivals going on are alerting the vendors that they might have that aren't state certified that this is what needs to be done to do business. So I think that'll be a big part of it, and having a package together that if you do come in for the license, you're given in English, not bureaucracy language, what you need to do. So.
go ahead.
Do we already have a requirement in place that those vendors have to obtain licenses?
For certain ones, like the taxi drivers, ice cream trucks and
So
such.
these are people
yeah.
who already have to get a license through town
Yeah.
hall or through some agency.
Yeah,
within
we
the
have
town.
licensing mechanisms for these.
So
these
this is just
already.
adding another layer to that.
Yeah.
Right, but-
So this is.
But it's part and parcel of them getting their license. That's what I'm just trying to say. It's just, okay, that's not so bad.
I could turn off my mic and tell you that I take offense to this specifically because there's metal dealers on here, and that's assuming that the word criminal is used in the same sentence. It's not a correct statement, but I'll let that one go for now. So I'll entertain a motion on Article 16.
I move favorable action on Article 16, which would create a bylaw for civil fingerprinting of vendors.
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed?
Me.
All those abstain? All right, let's do this one more time because I got hands going up. Let me have hands because it's like, all those in favor? All right, all those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. All those abstain? All right, that's 1, 4, 2. Whoa. Guys, my math is not working tonight. What?
Will we have someone from the police department at town meeting to speak to this more concisely?
Okay. That was quite a shocker for me. Let's just go down to, we're almost done with you, I think. Mr. Sullivan, we're almost done with you, not the rest of us. Amend waterways bylaw, and that was, I really enjoyed that one last night because it really is cleaning up our bylaws for the waterways. So if you want to add anything else to it, or,
No, I think, the waterways bylaws, there's going to be changes done to them, and I think this one's cleaning it up. I can't say this is going to be the last one that ever gets
Yeah.
done. But I think it does take some good steps, and I think Mr. Buckminster did a great job of letting everybody know what he's thinking. So, and in the off season too, he amends bylaws. I should add to what they do.
if you don't have a copy, we can get you a copy.
I have a beautiful copy I haven't read
She
yet.
hasn't read it yet.
That's okay. You have a
So
copy.
why don't we hold off on our vote on that?
Okay, if you want to hold off till we'll vote on that one on.
I appreciate it.
All right, we'll vote next week. So we're holding on Article 18. The layout of Cranberry Lane. You want to explain that one a little bit? I don't want you to explain. Do what? It's a Board of Selectmen article, so we could entertain. Is everybody okay with the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Slavin, coming up here and speaking with us?
Certainly.
Okay, nobody complained. Let's make it tonight, come on.
You turn it on, Bob? Thank you. This is the first of probably many street acceptance articles coming at most likely Springtown meetings. This has happened to be in the fall. So this is the first one under the new guidelines that have been put together. Basically what happens is people will bring a petition to the selectman's office asking for street acceptance. They have to comply with a bunch of different issues, stormwater management, the actual layout of the road, the depth of the paving, etc. They have to have meets and bounds are done. They have to have a layout diagram actually at the time they file. They have to have a letter from all the abutters on the property, if it's a homeowners association, signing off saying they all agree to this. Sometimes there'll be issues where there may have to be an easement purchased by the town for the actual road. It could be a homeowners association, or it could be that the developer never turned the road over. So you're going to see a multitude of different versions. This one here is a little different. It's a homeowners association, but the developer is actually representing them all. And all the paperwork is in place. What we have right now is we have put it in for town meeting to vote, but there's a possibility we may pull it if they don't have everything in place by the time of town meeting. The planning board is basically tasked with going out and checking all the different requirements, which they've hired Charlie Rowley to do. Mr. Rowley came back with 8 different issues on the road. They've complied with 4 already. They expect to have the other 4 issues done in 2 weeks. As long as we have a sign-off from Rowley through the planning board, then it'll go to town meeting, and then basically town meeting votes on the article. If town meeting says they're willing to accept the road, then it goes back to the Board of Selectmen, and they make the final decision. That's the process.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm not a master of everywhere things are in Wareham. Could somebody briefly tell me where Cranberry Lane is?
Cranberry Lane, I think, is down off of Swiss Beach. It's a little, it's a small road with a cul-de-sac at the end. Yeah, it's within another subdivision, actually. It's about, I think there's 5 to 8 homes total in it. It's not very many.
Yes, go ahead.
Is this a paved road or is it dirt?
Unless it's a paved road that meets current standards, we'll never accept it. It's a requirement,
That it be paved, that's a requirement.
yeah. You have to meet current standards.
And that way it'll be plowed. That's part and parcel of why
Well, it
this is
ends up,
coming?
once you accept the road, then the town is responsible for the road.
So they'll plow.
Town is responsible for the road.
Okay.
The answer is yes, that you're responsible for the road, and it will be plowed. So, any other? I think because it may or may not be accepted, or it may or may not be completed by that time, do you want?
Reluctant to
I-
vote on this at a
Sorry.
time that it's not.
We just,
That's why I have her here to fill in those terms I don't know, like reluctance. I think we shall hold this one for now.
we're gonna, well, basically, the board, the selectmen will do the same thing, because until we have the final sign-off, we can't approve it. This is the type of thing where it's basically almost like a citizen's petition, even though it's really the Board of Selectmen. So you're putting the process through, but until everything's in place,
Well, let's
it
play
doesn't
it.
become a,
I'm going to really get tired of this microphone before
you
the
just have
year's
to
out.
chew on it a little bit.
Let's play a new game. Well, there is a financial impact to the town, because obviously now that we're going to accept a road, we're going to have to take care of that road, and there's a cost involved in that. So it is
Long
something
term.
that we need to, right, but there's still a cost involved, and from the finance committee's standpoint, that's what we're here for.
Yep, anytime the town takes a road over, there will be expense down the road.
Yeah, so,
It's
I-
in your ballpark.
so for us to vote no action is probably not a good vote for the committee, so let's hold up.
We could vote, we could all abstain because it wasn't,
It's not ready.
It's not
And
ready.
will it be ready by next week? Probably not. Is that,
On Monday's meeting with the planning board, Charlie said expected, and the developer said about 2 weeks, so the answer would be no.
all right, well, then I think we need to, do need to abstain, because we're not going to have an answer before town meeting.
It's gonna go right up to town meeting possibly.
All right, so let's just make a
should we
motion.
just say no vote taken?
No
Or
vote
do we wanna-
taken.
Or do we want to?
No action.
I like no action better than abstain.
Yeah. No action
Abstentions.
taken.
All right, so we're going to take no action on that one.
Yeah, once we get an answer, if it's ready, we'll forward the information to you immediately.
Believe it or not, I think we only have 2 more things from both you guys, and poor Mr. Sullivan needs to go home, and you can hang out a while, but I want to go over to the last 2.
I'm going
while-
to the movie over at WCTV shortly.
All right. Well, the last 2 are petition articles, and the first one is to change the zoning statutes to 2002, and if you were at the meeting last night, this is, I believe Mr. Selectman Titlebaum described it as dropping an atom bomb to kill a gnat.
I'm
And-
sorry, I totally missed that. Start, rewind again, where are we at?
Sorry, 25.
Thank you,
That was my Rod Serling voice. Did you like it? Okay.
thank you. Well, stop, you're looking at him and I can't hear
All
it.
right, I'm sorry. So, as far as weighing in on this, I don't even know that this would even pass at the state level.
No, it's a citizen's petition, and it has to come forward.
Right. And
at
he is
t-
going forward, he said so.
Yeah, at town meeting, there is I believe town council can rule it's a invalid article. The way it's written, I don't think it would pass muster at all as a valid article by the moderator even.
Nevertheless, if it was to pass, which I don't know how it can, but you're right, it's there would be a significant cost involved in this as well.
It would basically wipe out every
Every
zoning bylaw that was passed And we don't, it says 2002, it doesn't say what time in 2002.
Right, so I hesitate. I don't know how we should approach this. Obviously, we can vote on it.
I'd say we have to.
You have to remember that
We don't have to vote.
This was put in by a citizen,
Right.
and I asked the question yesterday, is this in because you have a building that you can't do something with now, so you want to go back to a zoning that went back 13 years ago? The answer was yes.
It had to do with the setbacks.
Had to
But
do with setbacks.
the other question that I had, which I think is important, and I asked Mr. Barrett earlier, he has not come before the ZBA. Is that correct?
No, he hasn't. No,
He hasn't approached them, anything, which I think would be a step one in this process.
and he can't correct the article because the
Right.
articles are closed.
So, anybody have any questions before we vote on this?
I'm sorry, but I think even to vote on it, okay, I mean, to be open-minded and really offer an opinion on this, we would really need to sit down and take the 2002 statutes, the updated statutes, decide what the difference was, debate it out and come up with a decision. I'm not prepared to do that.
I don't think anybody's
Okay.
prepared to do
I
that.
really feel no action is necessary on this. You're talking about a situation that you could, yes, have a huge financial impact, but the fact that this person obviously hasn't gone through the proper channels and taken the proper steps. We have zoning boards and we have, planning boards, et cetera, to do this job, and we have confidence in them to do their job. And this has come up in the years that I have been here, where people want to circumvent the steps, all right? So I really don't even feel so we have the time and energy and effort to even study this properly.
I think you just wrote the advice for the Finance Committee for town meeting.
Of
with
course,
that. And
whatever you would like me to do, Mr. Chairman.
But I think you just did it. That's the reason I think we need to vote on it, because the message that she sent is the message we need to send. And that's all right in your wheelhouse. Before you just go ahead and assign that one to Mrs. Cattouli over there, because I like the way she said it. So, Mrs. Downey, do
I
you
was
have?
going to say the same thing you did. I used her entire argument, I think is absolutely correct, but I think for that reason, we should vote on it, and I would urge that we vote against favorable action on it, because it's an ill-considered argument. There may be changes to certain areas that he may want to look at, and that's what he was told last night. If there was a certain area that this could be done, you could make it more particular and tailored to that certain location. I don't mean spot zoning for one house, but one neighborhood or one area. But to change the entire bylaws for zoning in for a setback, well, for any reason whatsoever, to do a blanket change like this to our zoning would put us in litigation nightmares. I can't even contemplate how many years it would take to get out of that. So, no, this is just it's an ill-advised article.
Oh, I'll entertain a motion on Article 25.
I will move favorable action on Article 25, changing zoning statutes to 2002 statutes.
All those in favor? All those opposed?
Aye.
All those abstain, so 077. And when you're writing up the advice, could you put in 070? When you're writing up the advice, make sure to put in there about using an atom bomb to kill a gnat. I always thought that was. The last one, I have a microphone that just does not like me tonight. The last one is Mr. Flaherty has put forth an article to repeal, is that the word we're looking for, or overturn the required physical attendance for members of the public body. Now, I'll address it the best I can. I did that night. This was a state policy that was
Attorney General.
wasn't enacted. It was adopted by the Board of Selectmen. It was never brought before town. It was not a town meeting policy, and to go to town meeting to do this is, in my opinion, not the correct method of doing it. However, and I did receive an email that stated that perhaps he would go before the Selectmen and discuss this. So I'm not sure where this article stands. You know, I think I don't want to get into a political speech about whether I like the article or not. It really, at this point, it's not something we have to deal with. But that's the overview. If anybody had, Mr. Slavin, Selectman Slavin.
Anything's fine.
All right. So anybody want to discuss this in any form or fashion?
I'll just give you what we have. When the article appeared, went back and checked with the Attorney General, who basically, you know, made this something that could be adopted. It was written specifically that basically on the town level that the Board of Selectmen could adopt this policy. It doesn't require going to, matter of fact, it doesn't even provide for town meeting whatsoever. So the legal question is, can town meeting basically rule on something that was not in their germane? Town council last night felt that it would not pass muster. Mr. Flaherty seemed to wanted to basically challenge it and go right up to the Attorney General into court if necessary. So I guess the question is going to be if he wants to go that far, he can, but this is a voluntary policy. I know some people, there's been, you know, complaining, thinking that people will not show up, especially like selectmen. Of course, that will never happen. This was really a policy put forth for some of the boards that are advisory boards where their decisions basically, they don't make actual decisions. They make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen in most cases, and therefore it just helps them function a little better at times. But again, it's up to the citizen if they want. You can go ahead and do that. But again, I don't feel that it falls in their jurisdiction as the Attorney General has developed the policy.
Anybody want to weigh in on this at all? Because, I mean, not the policy itself, but what we're talking about is not the policy. We're talking about the methodology or the process here. I'm not even sure to vote on it.
If my understanding, and I was making a joke about this when this first came out, I did understand it. I mean, we're in the age of technology, okay? And we need to utilize that. And my understanding of this was that the Board of Selectmen chose to adopt it in the event it was ever necessary for a member of the Board of Selectmen. Maybe, you know, somebody winds up, you know, needing to rehab at home because they broke their leg or something. I mean, this is just silliness, but I do know there was a few boards that this could be utilized, because if they missed X amount of meetings in doing hearings, all right, this could be detrimental to a final vote if they didn't get all the information. So I did see the positive aspect of that. But my understanding was that each committee had to decide whether to adopt it or not to adopt it.
Correct.
Okay? So it was never available to circumvent town meeting in any way, shape, or form. So I don't really understand the motivation of the petitioners for that. And if they are on a particular board or serving in that way, then they need to approach their own chairman and say, I don't feel as though I would want to adopt this in that committee. But to try to, you know, put it to the entire town and make the town say to all of these boards, you have to be there, I think it's really out of place. It doesn't belong at town meeting.
I agree, but Mr. Hurd?
Yes, I'm new on this board, and I'm just wondering what sort of votes we can take. Do we take votes of no confidence? I see no action, or accept or reject.
We either take no action, or we take a favorable vote and vote in that way. We don't, that's it that I can think of. We've always done.
We don't have a really strong parliamentarian on the board right now, so if anybody wants to review Robert's rules and tell us what other choices are, you could do that, but lacking that,
Can I attempt to
we could just
add an
not vote on
explanation?
it.
I want to, can I attempt at an explanation? Okay, a couple of things, like when I started here 6 years ago, there were like 3 ways of doing things. You either took favorable action, no action, or further study, okay? And in my opinion, and in the opinion of several of the members of the FinCom, we felt like the Finance Committee kind of moved people in a certain direction when it came to some of these articles, all right? And we wanted to be fair to the proponents of the articles. So we sort of adopted a policy of bringing the articles forward in the spirit that they were meant to come in, whether the Board of Selectmen put them forward, whether a petitioner put them forward, whether, it didn't really matter, that they needed to be brought forward in the positive light that they were intended for, and that our recommendation reflected our vote. So we would move for favorable action and then decide if we were in favor or not of it, okay? Or we would simply abstain from it. There have been some articles that we felt as though were just not well put together, or not well represented at all, okay? Where a true further study was necessary, okay? And we've put it out that way. I think that even something like this might fall into a further study category. Particularly, I don't know desire to study it at all, but you can do no action at all if that's what you wish to do. If we feel as though it has no, especially financial impact on the town, we may decide that no action is the route that we want to go. All right, but if it in any way has a financial impact on the town, then we feel as though we should bring it forward in a positive form and then vote it up or down. That's how we've gone so far.
And my concern about this article is just what's happening here and what happened last night. We're going to spend an inordinate amount of time discussing it when it really is a negligible issue. And if this gets taken out of order, because we have a lottery system at town meeting, this could come up and we could go on for quite a bit of time. So the one thing I would hope that this committee could do is come to an agreement and be forceful of it so we can limit discussion to the really important points of it, because it's a policy. I hate to limit any tool that this town has to move forward with decision-making bodies. It's just frustrating.
I'm just wondering if it could be voted down as being inappropriate for
You
Our
can't be,
vote?
you can't be specific in your vote that way. We can either vote no action. I don't know that we can even vote further study. I'll have to go back and check. I don't think we did, but we can vote favorable action or no action. And this,
or negative action.
but
and
again,
then-
we're talking about an article. We're talking about an article that is a policy that has nothing to do with town meeting, and we just spent 20 minutes talking about it. This is absolutely not what we need to do. And I think the intent of this article was good by his nature. I think he was intending to do something good, but at the same time, I don't think this is the appropriate place to do it. So, I would entertain a motion for no action.
May I have a question first before we make that motion? If we do no action, can we then also put in an explanation in our
I
report?
believe
Yes,
we
you
need
can.
to.
Why? Well, there's a reason you voted no action, and there's your explanation. We might let you do that one too, the way you're just fired up tonight. All right, so I'll entertain a motion for no action.
I'll move no action on Article 26, which requires physical attendance of all members of public bodies.
Second.
Or is it you take no action? We don't even need to vote for that, do we? I guess let's just take an action, no action.
But you should vote favorable action, then vote no.
Vote it down?
Well,
That's the way, if you're against it, that's how it should be shown. You vote no action, that means you don't really have an opinion.
no, that just means we're not taking any action on
All
it.
right, so you
Doesn't
take
mean we
any
don't
action,
have an
but are
opinion.
we against it, or don't we not having any action? That's what you gotta say, Larry. No action
I'm-
means,
gonna go home and
That was
read.
David's question, that's
Right.
what we still don't know. What's
No,
the strategy?
I think the saying, I think most of us, well, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but I think the opinion is that the article is flawed. This is not the action we even wish to take, okay?
then we should
That,
vote no.
yes, we're not giving a positive or a negative opinion on their work or the article itself, whether we think it's a good idea or a bad idea. We think it's flawed to begin with. This is not the route that these people should go.
So if we all vote to take no action, then we're not putting a vote in here, we're just going to put no action will be our response. So you just want to make sure that the committee feels the same.
And then I'll go back to my Robert's Rules of Orders for Dummies
I still-
and read it.
I still have a question, Larry.
Yes.
No action's really, basically, if I'm out in the general public and I look at no action, that means we didn't want it or not want it. It appears that we're against it. So vote against it. No action is kind of like saying, you took nothing, you're not for it or you're not against it. That's just how I see it. I could be wrong.
Bonnie is gonna write an explanation for that.
Right, there'll be an explanation in there. Look,
I'm just wondering how we're coming across, that's all. I wanna come across the right way.
Well, I want to come across on financial articles. This one I really don't care to come across on, and no action's the
Okay.
vote that I'm looking for. And I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but
looking
this
for
is not
no
the proper venue. And for us to even vote on it against or negative, it doesn't belong. So I would vote, I would take the motion for what, do we already have a
We have a
motion for
motion
no
on the
action?
floor.
I need a second
We
from,
heard a second.
I haven't have a second, but, thank it. Okay, all those in favor of no action? All those opposed? All those abstain? So that's 7-0-0, no action. We'll reconsider whether to let you write that, 'cause that's pretty strong advice you get. I think we're done with both of you, and then the rest of us, we can kind of go over ourselves. All we have left is community preservation and the Wareham roof. Unless you want to stay for the Wareham roof, which I know Mr. Sullivan is hightailing it out. So,
We can't vote on the roof because we don't have a funding source.
we can't.
We can't until we,
So
we shouldn't.
just want to make clear, we know of no place where the 60's coming from, so we have no funding source for this.
The school might pull it up.
The feasibility study.
We're going to hold that article till
Hold it
next week.
until we know if there's a funding.
That would be Article 9. I'm sorry.
13.
No, 13.
No, I'm on the community preservations. I'm writing all over the place. Sorry, that was 13. $60,000 to do the study, and at this point, there has not been a source of that 60,000 identified.
It's great, Bonnie. The superintendent looked at Derek.
Dominic, put the mic in front of you. Don't say anything. When you speak, you have to use.
Sorry, Bob.
So at this point, we have basically the community preservation articles, which we can hold or we can go over. And we're holding on, we're holding on the, no action on the, let's just hold the planning articles till next time. All right, we're gonna probably take no action on them, but let's just hold them, just make sure where we're at with that. All right. All right, so you guys want to tackle the community preservations, and then we'll call it a night? Everybody okay with that? All right. Dominic didn't bring enough checks mixed for
Yeah,
the rest of us.
I don't eat the pretzels you can have.
Okay, Article 8, the community preservation Nature's Explorer Outdoor Classroom. I want to eat the pretzels too. We had CPC before us.
The ride home. Derek needs it more than we do.
We had CPC come before us and explain this article to us. This is for the study to see if it's feasible to put it in. Boy, it's a good pretzel too. Anybody had any questions or is there comments from the last time when they showed up? Anybody want to, Mr. Hurd?
I think it's a commendable effort, and I'm just sorry that it's coming up at this particular time in our financial situation, financial life. I think we need to preserve all the money that we have.
Anybody else? Yes.
No, I'm not. I'm not fired up. I would be twirling my hair. Dominic knows that. I understand, we want to talk about conserving funds, but when we talk about community preservation funds, I mean, the fact that we deal with the restriction of what we can use it for and decide what our best use of that money is, we've got all these guidelines that we have to follow, and as long as we have community preservation in this town, I think it only smart to, try to use it in a way that, can better serve the community. I don't want to get into a long-term, plan out of this. I really hope that when it comes to town meeting that we really stick to the fact this is only a study, $7,500 to decide whether it's even a good idea. And they hope that they have their homework done as far as, they want to plan to be able to fund it in the future for maintenance and things like that, but that's not what this article is asking us for. It's asking us to, for permission to spend the $7,500 just to find out whether it's even feasible to do so, okay? So I think we could give them the benefit of the doubt there, that it's good money spent for our children and their future, and just, stick to that criteria.
And I'm totally torn between those two opinions, because I agree that we have a whole list of things that our current project with community preservation. We know we're not going to need funds for some of those things as well. It's only $7,500. It's only for a study. How much are they going to come back and ask us for? So I've been going back and forth on this, and I probably am going to vote with my heart instead of my head, because it's nature, it's the library. How can I not? But it also goes to the vision of what I want to see with the community getting better, starting to heal, moving in the right direction, vision, whatever other words you want to throw out there. It's small money at this time, and I may have to vote ultimately against the project if it comes in too much money later on, but I think it's a small enough dollar amount that we have available. With all the money that's being returned in Article 9, I guess I feel a little bit that we can spend this now to see where ultimately it's going to go.
Anyone else? I think just to be clear, it's CPC money. Now, it's not coming out of the budget. Sorry, pardon me. It's not coming out of the budget, it's coming out of the CPC. It is a study, it's not the project. We're not, we can talk about how they're gonna fund the project itself, but that's a totally different animal at this point. But this is for a study, the money is out there. We've paid the money already in our tax bills. So it's out there, and personally speaking, they had a wooden xylophone in one of these things, and I'm really into that. And I'm also a library supporter too. I'll be clear.
Bought for a wooden xylophone.
I can be bought
Really?
for a wooden xylophone. That's how easy I am.
Chocolate,
But
so.
nevertheless, this is not going to. I know that if I want to go out and say, "My gosh, the roof on the library and everything else," but that money's not coming from CPC. That money is coming from the town. This is something that we have the money out there that. If it's not used for this, it's going to sit there and be used for something else that we may not be in favor of, like maybe a smokestack on an apartment building. So that's my opinion.
I understand that, and I'm a library supporter. I think they're very important. I think outdoor activities are very important. I think as a finance committee, we also need to send a message to the town meeting that we're looking at these things, and we're looking at each article, and we're trying to find areas that are not essential areas that we have to spend money right now. And if it's not essential, I feel we should tell the town meeting that we're looking out for them, and they shouldn't vote for things that aren't essential either.
Okay. Okay. We'll leave it at that. Yes.
I agree with you, but I do think you stifle creativity if you don't sometimes give them the money. And I think you want to foster people to come up and say, oh, I'd like this project. This was a school teacher who came in front of us. And if we say no to all of them, then I think they're going to say, oh, they all say no, so I'm not going to do it anymore. You don't. You lose their creativity, and I think this town could use some creativity.
I'll put my 2 cents in.
Please.
Into the microphone.
Into
though.
the microphone. My 2 cents, when you use the word essential, I think that, I don't think the CPC money was actually put out there for essentials. I think it was put out there for the town to be creative and to move in a way that normally wouldn't spend money. If it was going to be for essentials, then I don't think CPC would have been created. They would have just left the money in the budget and spent it on bills. And I believe that, the whole part of the CPC is to be creative and to disperse money in ways to help the town that wouldn't normally be an expense. That's my 2 cents.
I'll just weigh in one more time. I think, and this is where we have to be careful, we are a finance committee, and our job is to review the articles for the financial impact. There is no financial impact on the budget. This money is not coming from the budget. Otherwise, and again, if it was coming from the budget, I'd be sitting right over there agreeing with you.
Excuse me, Larry. Don't go that way with how you say it. The finance committee we look at all financial issues of the town. Now, we're looking at the financial of the CPC. So don't say that it has no,
Effect on the
financial,
budget?
because,
doesn't.
wait a minute. Our job is not just for the budget. It is to oversee all financial capabilities of the town. This is a finance being spent from CPC in which we have to overlook. So don't say that it has no effect. You might not say it has no effect on the budget, but in reality, it still has effect in the outcome of the finances of the town. So please don't use that word, because I'm
Well, I'll
against
say it once again.
I'm against
There's no money coming out of the budget,
There is money being spent.
not out of the budget. So,
Say it how you want.
well, that's exactly how it is.
And I disagree with it. And I'll go
Well,
on
then
record
you
to
show
disagree
me on
with it.
paper, well, let's just stop that.
All right.
I'm just gonna let it go now. Go ahead.
I'd just like to make a point of clarification because I'm sitting between the two of you. One of my first meetings, I mistakenly said something similar. And I said, oh, that's CPC money, that's not our money. And I think what Bonnie said earlier is, it is our money, it's taxpayer money.
That's right.
It is the town,
It is the
it is the town's money, it's not out of the budget, so.
on your tax bill that's taken out. It's the people's money on a certain, it's going to CPC. It's not coming to the
Wait.
town for our expenditures.
You
It's going to
just,
CPC.
Oh, we
and
all
it's being
have to go to the
matched by
CPC
state.
meeting tomorrow
That's
night.
why they have the meeting, so you can understand what it is. Simple
Okay.
as that. Anybody else?
it's the people, you just put your foot in your mouth. It's the people's money. That's
what-
what we're here to protect and oversee.
When did I say it wasn't the people's money, Dominic?
All right, I'm gonna stop. I'll stop talking.
Okay.
All right.
I'll stop talking.
I need a motion on Article 8.
I move favorable action on Article 8, community preservation, to fund $7,500 for a study for the Nature Explore outdoor classroom.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? 6-1.
610.
May I say something?
Yes.
Mr. Chair? I would just like to say that tonight's meeting had some of the best debate that I've seen on this committee. Seriously, I mean, I'm very pleased with what we've chosen to argue about and how we've chosen to argue. That's a good thing. Best speech ever, Don. Best
All
speech
right, so let's
ever.
quit arguing and go
Good
on
job,
to
David.
community preservation, return funds for completed projects. Let's have some happy
Oh, I
news
thought we were
there.
done.
Oh, no, we have
We have one more, okay.
two more, 1, 2, 3, because we have the amendment thing, but this will be quick.
I will move favorable action on Article 9, return funds from completed projects. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, $28,430.66 to go back into community preservation funds.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 7-0. Any abstentions? 0. Community preservation, Article 10, community preservation multi-service center roof. I think everybody was here and understands that one as well. So, any other questions or comments?
I would just make a short comment. I fully have confidence in the CPC that they did their homework, that they did the research, that the legal opinions that we presented are correct. So I would certainly vote favorably for this. However, I do anticipate, and I'll bet anybody $5 that we will have a problem on the floor. All right? This is going to become an issue. Anybody who thinks they're even an armchair lawyer is going to tear this apart. Okay? I think that a solidarity with the Board of Selectmen, a solidarity with this committee is going to make all the difference, I hope, in the world. But I don't guarantee it, and anybody who wants to buy me a beer if I'm wrong, I'll be perfectly happy to drink it.
I won't take that bet.
I'm out on that one, too.
However, that Angela Dunham does have, and hopefully she may read into the record, she has state-level CPC approval from this, which also cites the air conditioners. And the only question that has come up, and I don't think it will impact our voting, is that they do not believe that they have to put a historical preservation restriction on it, which is even better news. They can just use it for historical preservation purposes. Not really, because we didn't use CPC funds to acquire it, and that seems to be one of the standards. That's the determination. So she's quite confident and has the backup materials.
I'll entertain a motion on 10.
I move favorable action on Article 10.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? 7-0-0. We got one more. I know, anybody jump up for joy. Article 17, which is the amend the demolition delay bylaw, historical significant buildings, I
Can
think.
we hold on that also? Just because she's going to change, she may actually
yeah,
change the
that's right. We're
date
gonna
on
hold
it.
that
We
one.
had some debate, they went from 50 years to 75 years, but the clock keeps moving. I think David pointed out last night that maybe it would be better to come up with a date absolute, anything before 1925, or maybe consider going to 100 years. So, right now it's 75 years, but in 25 years, just to refine it a little bit better. So they're going to meet on that. They're either meeting tonight or they're going to meet next week.
Because in just a few years, when it's 2025, with a 50-year look back, a building built in 1975 would be considered historically appropriate,
Okay.
which,
Wouldn't it be?
Yeah, for our children.
Right, children, it would be.
we'll be still living in those. Come on now.
50 didn't used to seem old, huh? No. 50 used to seem old, I guess. Now it doesn't seem old at all.
Tell my body that, will you?
Yeah.
All right, part of the exercise we're gonna do this year, which we do every year, is we're gonna have to take the votes and write the advice for the articles we voted on. Now, I know we have 3 new members, so I know, don't give me that look, I see. There's not a lot of articles here, and I think most of these can be covered, the ones we voted on, by 3 or 4 people, but it always helps to have people that, if you feel strongly about an article, and again, you're not writing your personal opinion, you're writing the advice of Finance Committee, which is the vote we have here. So if you feel like there's any articles that rush out at you that you want to write the advice for, if anybody has any. If not, then other than the one, I think Bonnie's got 2, don't you already?
I've already got 2, but I'm just looking at number 16. Now, I was the only in favor, and therefore I am in the minority, and that's fine.
Well, that's one of the, we may have a pro and a con, because I think well,
Right.
not really, because there's not a lot of pro going on there.
Well, fine. It's up to you if you want a positive, if you want to take the majority vote, and that's our recommendation, I'm not offended by that. Since I'm all by myself, it's okay.
Well,
If it was a 4-2, I might say, there's a split there. But if you want to take the majority vote, and just write the negative, I don't know, it's just, I have no problem with that.
Well, we're getting a little ahead anyway, because I guess we have to have everything, if you look on your agenda, it says last day for the FinCom to vote is the 9th. We're going to go into the 2nd, possibly the 9th, but mostly likely the 2nd, with pretty much our votes in hand, which is what the goal is. And on the 11th is the last day for us to submit the advice to Kelly. And what I'd like to do is it come through the chair if you can, because that way it can be reviewed, except for Marilyn, who just gave me a dirty look, and she can put her straight to.
No, actually, that was what I was going to recommend, because in past years, we've all written up recommendations and thrown them to Kelly without anybody getting eyes on. And not that I want to have any pride in authorship, but if I'm going to write something for everyone else's opinion, I'd like to make sure everyone kind of agrees with it, except for a lot of these are just pretty basic housekeeping.
If you need help, we're available to help too. So if anybody, and again, there's not many articles. I think we can pretty much wrap them up basically with 3 or 4 of us. And if you're interested in helping write any, and you have any that you feel jumps out at you, let me know. If you're looking down the list now, if anybody sees anything they want to write the advice on, and again, it's the finance committee's advice, not your own personal advice, unless you're Bonnie, and then she gets that right, because she's been on here the longest. So
It's not my personal advice.
let's just
my
go.
conversation.
Let's just go quickly through this. Transfer funds for the appropriation, the insurance, the 53,000 to school. Anybody want that? All right, so Dave Hurd is taking Article 1. Maryland's taking Article 2.
I saw that coming.
That wasn't even a
Wait a
question.
minute, I gotta get this right.
You got your little paper?
Yeah, I do. Oh, you're writing it on there too?
I am writing it on there. The triennial revaluation.
I gotta get my Maryland straight.
Oh, that's the hard part. That's
Oh, sorry, that's Maryland
and
D.
Maryland J.
Sorry, wrong Maryland there. All right, the triennial, did you say you're doing that? I'll do that one, I don't care. I'll do it. Larry's doing 3. Transfer harbor master maintenance and improvement account. I can do the harbor master accounts unless anybody wants them.
4 and 5?
Yeah. What?
I'll do one.
All right, well,
You can find
you
both
really have to do
together.
them both together, so it's the same thing. I'll do those. There is no line painting. The vacuum truck we're holding on for now. The community preservation articles,
I can do the community
that would
preservation.
be Maryland
Usually do this.
D. Maryland D.
Put an 8?
And don't take it personal if you're left out this time, because I can guarantee you in the spring when there's 50 articles, we'll all be writing.
You're gonna do 8 and 9?
8, 9,
And
10.
Okay.
I'll do 11.
Don's doing 11.
I mean, 15 is
Wait, there is no unpaid bills. The roof's on hold. When the roof's done, we'll worry about that. 16,
15 is nothing.
well, 15's on hold.
Okay.
16 is we're looking at create bylaw, civil fingerprint. Anybody want to do that one? Okay, Larry's doing that one.
Well, we didn't really talk a lot about why we were opposed to it.
Yeah, I think you might wanna throw that around the table.
All right, I'll throw it on the table. Why are we opposed to it? Because Dominic and I are the abstentions.
Well, I have to be, I guess, because
And I
it
sort of
affects
feel
me.
like
So
I have to be.
It affects me, so I better stay out of it, or someone will get me in trouble.
I think number 1 is going to be a burden on the police. My concerns about Article 16, number 1, I think it's going to be a burden on the police. I think it's going to be a burden on the vendors who wish to participate in some of the festivals that we have. I recently received a weapons permit after approximately 4 months of waiting. I provided my fingerprints, and I just don't see how they can effectively give someone a permit in a short period of time. And by a short period of time, I mean even several weeks, getting the fingerprints reviewed by the FBI and the information back. And then there's the problem of enforcement. If you start going to a festival and checking permits on all the vendors who come in and are selling trinkets for a day, we're just going to drive people away.
Larry, can I say something? You know me, I just think that it's another way for Big Brother to watch, and I'm just against that, that's all. But I do have to abstain.
You didn't have to abstain. You could have
Well,
voted against it if
I
you
think,
wanted to.
Well-
I think by unanimous vote that Dave Hurd is going to write the advice for that article, unless anybody
think so.
disagrees with that.
One of the other 4 have
And,
Thank you,
and
Dave.
Dave, I would only also just add, because I thought your points are all right on target, that it also,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
it discourages more entrepreneurial type of services at this point in this economy. I don't really want to put up any more roadblocks.
I'll just add in that the difference between a license and fingerprinting that's a big difference.
Yep.
They're already requiring license for some of these, but now we're adding the additional step of fingerprinting, which is, I think, yes.
You know what, Larry, you are right, and I'm against Big Brother watching all this, but I think the intent of it was to keep the criminal activity out of our type of things. But I mean, for instance, there are always ways around everything, too. I mean, you got people who want to get a liquor license that are criminals that own a bar room, they just put it in someone else's name. I mean, there are too many ways around things like that. I believe the idea of it has a good meaning. Like I said, I just don't think they can pull it off in that time. Right, exactly right.
So that,
You guys are like really
You
getting.
just wrote your explanation, Dave.
all right, I think you're done writing now, Dave. That, also, if you feel like you need to add, or you feel like you want to add something to the advice, feel free to.
And it can be this one will probably be a little more elaborate, but the rest of them can be fairly short and concise.
We have, I don't think we should write any action on, or any advice on 25, maybe? There's really nothing to advise on. That was the changing the zoning statutes
Oh, I
to
think
two.
We abstained, so,
Well, who would like to write that one?
I will write that.
Oh, that's Marilyn.
I'll write that one.
Bonnie
No,
took,
I'm doing
Oh,
25 and 26.
Bonnie's gonna do 25 and 26.
That's
Okay.
25 and 26.
Bonnie is taking 25 and 26. The rest of them are on hold anyway until next meeting or whatever. You got all that, or am I going too fast? You write faster than I talk. So keep in mind, I wouldn't say you'd have to have them in by next week, but it would be nice if you can work on them. The other thing is I have to write a, do I have to
Message
write
to
a
the
letter?
body.
I have to write a message to the body. So what I'll do is I'll probably have it prepared before the 9th and email it to you, so and especially Marilyn, who's my editor, if anybody has anything they think that they want to cover as far as the finance committee, how our approach to how our job this year as opposed to in the past, or how you feel about it, and anything you want to add in that message to town meeting, I'll write something. If you feel like you need to add something, please send it to me, and I'll try to incorporate it in, and then you'll get a chance to look at it before next week, because I don't feel like this is something maybe I'm doing it different. I don't think I am. The letter, while it says it comes from the chairman, it actually should come from the committee, because I would never presume to speak on behalf of the committee.
I just have a question.
Yes.
When we're talking about, message sent, I know that, I mean, do we have like a goal this year of, yeah, I mean, just some points of that, some goals of the fact that, we want to make sure that the three boards work in conjunction with each other, and, keep up on some of the errors that have been made, like, budgets going over and nobody knowing about them, things like that. Working with the school and those. And what was our big point? Which direction that the Board of Selectmen want to bring this town in? Where their priorities are, and making that well heard.
I'm going to try to keep it specific to the finance committee.
Yeah.
If you looked at the address to town meeting last time, what I tried to do is make it more factual. This is how many times we've met. This is the focus for the finance committee. And I would say something about the three boards working together, but I'm never going to use the word, I don't think I'm going to use the word kick the can once.
No.
The
We love
second,
that.
I'm not, we've used it enough. But I will mention that, we are still in financial troubles in this town, but that by all committees working together. I mean, it's not going to be a 3.5 pager. It's probably going to be a couple paragraphs, but I did it last year. Well, I didn't do it. Donna Bronk did it. But anyway, I know the guy that helped write it. And what it is, it has to be factual to me. And nobody cares whether or not we want to use a lot of fancy words out here or there. They want to know that we've worked, and this is what our charge is, and this is what we've done. That's really what I think the message should be. Does anybody disagree with that?
Well, there's one thing I think you should add to that. I think when people, I know myself as a new member, when you sit out in the audience at town meeting and you watch the finance board, you're waiting for them to say yes or no, because you gear your vote on how they do it. And I think in that letter, that you have to explain to them that you're advisory only, because they wonder why you didn't stop things. You don't have the power to stop things, and I think that's something that the general public doesn't realize. That
One of
you
the
can't
things-
stop it.
One of the things that I tried to do last year, and I'll do it again this year, is if you take what's in the charter and the bylaws, the charge of the finance committee, I put it in the letters. And to me, that's what we're here to do, as opposed to, we're not the watchdog for all the town.
Right.
Our job, and that's tonight, we don't control things. We're not a decision-making body, we're an advisory body. I will make sure that's clear in my letter. And my own
People
wife
look-
says the
people
same
look
thing
for
to
us
me,
for
why didn't you
answers,
do
so.
something about it? I said, I can't. So, I agree that people want to see what we do
Yeah,
up
they
on the stage.
misunderstand.
They want to vote with us, but at the same time, they have questions of why are we not, we can't. And,
But I think in that letter, you have to make it plain to them
but I
that
don't
we
want to, I don't
can't
want to plead
advise.
to the people that's, I want to tell them that this is our charge. This is what we decided to do this year as a committee, is to stick to our charge in the charter and the bylaws. We are going to advise people at town meeting, and this is the number of times we've met, this is what we've covered, and all the boards working together with the other boards. And that's kind of the message I want to send. And that, I'll do a shorter version on the stand-up. So that's, anybody else? Okay, so now you have the town meeting dates to remember. This is the reminder, and believe me when I tell you, we better have everything in long before the 11th, because I don't want her calling me.
And you can
I
email
have to-
Kelly on the weekends,
Yeah. And if you need to just email me, anybody here that doesn't have my phone number, I'm not gonna announce it on TV, because that's the last thing I need to do at this point after what we just went through. Any new business? Liaison reports? Okay, come on, Marilyn, you're slowing everything
I'm sorry, I
down.
just wanted to make a quick note about the media. I now have a system where I email to the local reporters. Unfortunately, I told them we were meeting Tuesday and Wednesday, and I think they thought when we finished our meeting last night, we'd gone through all the articles, that they missed coming here tonight, but that's okay. What I'm doing is I'm emailing them our agenda and the minutes. So they've all thanked me, and they were getting much more information into the paper. Not gonna make a motion to adjourn?
Just a question, Mr. White, are we live tonight? We're not. Thank you.
We're not ready for live
Can you
TV.
Can you edit out the mud wrestling match that happened earlier?
Leave it on.
Well, I need a motion to approve the minutes of September 18th.
Oh,
Yes.
for the record, I'd like to make a correction on page 5. Where are the minutes? Yeah, it was on page 5.
First, you have to make a motion.
It should be Miss
You have to make a
Donahue.
motion.
Well, let's make sure the correction.
I'm sorry, Jordan.
Jordan, I was the one who abstained.
She's the one that abstained. I did not abstain on
Oh.
that vote.
What is this? One more time?
I abstained.
Okay. It's
Because she was
Not at
absent
that meeting.
the previous meeting.
And I would like to show Don something.
Oh, yeah, do it. Here you go. Might as well show it to him so he can dispute it. I wanted to.
Will I get in trouble again?
No, not really. You missed it. Went past it. It's right in there.
Mr. Arrived at
Yeah,
on
no,
time?
here we go. All right, here we go, see? It's all right if you want to leave that in there.
No, I don't want to read that. Who put that in there?
Kelly was taking notes short.
That a girl, Kelly, you know I'm not.
Just strike that whole
Yeah,
sentence.
strike that whole
Okay,
sentence.
thank you.
Thank you.
I caught that.
Thank
I
you.
thought it was pretty
Thank you.
amusing, Dawn.
I didn't read it, but
Okay.
I don't think anyone else reads the minutes anyways.
Bob will give us a copy of the tape and we can see what it's
Okay,
really said,
I'll
but I
take a
don't believe
motion
that was it.
to approve the minutes as amended.
amended. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Anybody abstain? Okay, that's done. Now, next meeting is next Wednesday. Hopefully, we will be in a much better shape and a quicker meeting, and we don't have a Tuesday meeting to wear us down even more.
What do we have to do for an agenda next week?
We need to, wasn't there a couple of articles? Now, see, wait till I put my stuff up, and then
Oh,
you
it's
do
all
that
right.
to me
So a
every
couple-
time.
finish.
I didn't know we had a meeting last night, though. I wasn't aware I was supposed to be there.
Yeah, we still have the purchase of the vacuum truck, the Wareham High School roof, which I'm going to contact them to come in and talk to us. And I'm going to get a ruling on on the truck thing. We also have the union. No, there's not going to be any of those till last minute. We're going to probably end up going to the second page though. I think there's more. We're going to have a definite answer on the historical significant buildings. Though we've already voted on that one. The water bylaws. Yeah, hold on.
On what?
You'd think I'd be organized after all these years. Here we go.
No, we didn't do 18.
No, we held it. We held it. Why did we hold the water bylaws?
Because we,
Oh, because I haven't read them.
Oh, that's why. Sorry.
Has everybody read
Bonnie's
all
fault.
these pages yet?
No, I
All right.
haven't.
I did.
So I'll contact.
I just got them.
good, then you can explain it to us next
All right,
week. There you
calm
go.
down.
Good.
So we have a few articles to cover next week. If we have any issues with writing or information. Also, please review the financial statements for August. If you have any questions, we will bring them out as well. And is that it?
No, since you're in
Why did we not vote on the vacuum truck?
Because we don't know if it's the way we need to be able to do it, because we may double appropriate the way it
Oh,
is right
okay,
now.
that's right.
So we're gonna get a definitive answer on that. Also, we may have the motions, maybe, or at least the majority of them at one next week.
I'm not worried about the motions until after we get our recommendations out.
Well, we're almost done with that. All right. All right.
Well, quick question. Our last meeting that we did have, was Tuesday, last night's meeting mentioned to be there?
Yes.
Okay, in my error.
Yes. I thought at the last meeting I
I
said
thought
we
we
were.
said tonight, next meeting was Wednesday tonight?
No.
Okay,
No, I think go back and look at the
my
tape.
mistake.
That's okay. I thought you were gonna be there and I didn't
I
call
would
you.
have been there, I did not write it down, so it was my error.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, don't even count that. Good night.